Sir Keir Starmer reportedly drawing up plans for a U-turn on winter fuel payments after the policy was blamed, in part at least, for the government's bruising local election losses.
Yes, options on the table include raising the means-tested threshold or scrapping means testing altogether, so eligible pensioners can claim the cash as before.
Well, speaking at the European Summit of Leaders in Albania, the Prime Minister didn't deny that a change was being considered, but he did insist that difficult decisions had to be taken.
It's something that was done to close the fiscal black hole, as the Chancellor described it, in a bid to save $1.4 billion. It's unlikely that they would reverse the policy completely. However, as you said, they are looking at some modifications. That would mean perhaps lowering the threshold at which pensioners, the income threshold at which pensioners can claim. So currently that threshold is £11,809.
Which is not a lot of money.
Which is not a lot of money to live on, even for a single pensioner. And as your report stated, there was a huge amount of backlash coming from in the local elections. Number 10 fears that it contributed to the 14,000 majority being toppled at the Runcorn by-election recently. So I think they're reconsidering, because whilst the fiscal benefits are there for all to see, the political cost is now tipping the scale in the other direction.
But there's also a political cost in doing a U-turn, and a high-profile U-turn.
Yeah, that's right, and I think that's what they're struggling with. We had the Red Wall MPs write a letter recently, which you guys covered, that were telling the Prime Minister that it wasn't weak to do a U-turn on something like this, which is a little bit unprecedented. This government has been quite good at keeping its dissatisfaction sort of behind closed doors. So this was quite a big move for them, that group, to go public.
They've also said, haven't they, that it was this policy in particular was kryptonite when they were door knocking during the local elections. I think that's very telling.
It is, and it's one of those policies that cuts through. And what I think is fascinating is when you look at the voter preference breakdown, reform voters in particular are the ones who are most upset by the cut to the winter fuel payments. And, we're seeing that more and more with the polls, that it's a fight between Labour and Reform. And so, Labour thinking, wow, this is something that really, really matters to that group of voters that we need to appeal to.
But I wonder if the damage is already done by the fact that they've done it in the first place. So rowing back, it might win some people over, but a lot of people are going to say, well, what else could they do? Because there's the farmers' tax and lots of other issues as well, which are very unpopular.
Well, absolutely, and I can imagine that that's what they're struggling with. When a brand is damaged, when a policy such as this cuts through to that extent, will reversing it be the worst of both worlds? Because you lose the money, you appear weak, and everybody hates you anyway.
Yeah.
I think it comes down to trust, doesn't it? That is the kind of crux of the issue, is that they've already made these decisions, so reversing on it, but people might question, but how much can we trust this government? And perhaps that's where Reform will come in and say, actually, you can trust us on these issues. Do you think that will have a big impact?
Well, I think Reform is already saying that, and I think it's very easy in some ways to be in opposition, because you can claim all sorts of things, and Labour are finding out over the last 9 months just how difficult it is to govern.
Well, even easier in opposition for Reform, because they haven't got a history.
Yes.
Now, that could be, what is going to be interesting with this is how Reform now perform in terms of the local elections, and indeed the mayoralties as well, because where they've got very big budgets under their control.
Yeah, they did surprisingly well on the mayoralties, didn't they? And we've got the Welsh elections coming up next year, where they're, at this point, may well take control. Or
it may be a big push to Plaid Cymru, actually.
It's looking like a really interesting election there. And I have to say, for Reform, it's probably the worst thing that could happen to them, for them to win control of Wales, because then you really do need to take tough decisions and show something more than just talk.
Yeah.
This video is sponsored by Saily. Saily is a brand new eSIM service app. What it does is get you a local SIM card that you can use when you're traveling, so you don't have to pay those crazy roaming fees just to send a text back home. They've got eSIM plans in over 160 countries and 8 regions. So pretty much wherever you're going, they'll be able to make sure you're connected. So how does it work? Well, all you've got to do is hit our link in the description to download the app. It will work on iOS or Android. Buy a plan, you can choose the best time frame for you, and then just install the eSIM on your phone. When you land at your holiday destination, you can activate your plan instantly. Saily eSIMs only ever have to be installed once, so when you go on your next trip, you just buy a plan for a new country, turn that eSIM back on, and just like that, you could be watching the GB News YouTube channel. You can be connected anywhere you go, and you don't have to deal with patchy Wi-Fi in your hotels. So get sorted for your next trip by downloading Saily using the link in the description below, and if you use our code NEWS at checkout, you'll get an exclusive 15% discount on us.
Shall we look at Starmer ambushed over fishing rights in the Telegraph, Kevin?
Yeah, so it's a big day on Monday. There's this big summit that Starmer has arranged, EU-UK summit, to try and nail down a fresh deal. He's describing it as a reset. The French, though, as we know, they've always had their eye on the British fishing waters. They want their hands on our fish as much as possible, basically. So they've said, right, well, if you want a deal, our fishermen want more of your fish. Now, you speak to some Labour MPs and they say, great. I mean, if you look at the size of the fishing industry as opposed to the wider economy, then why not? But if you live in a fishing community, if you are a fisherman in the fishing industry, you'll be really nervous. You'll be worried about this because one of the benefits of Brexit that was sold to us was, well, British access to fishing waters. You won't have to share it with Europe, basically. There'll be cries of sellout over this, undoubtedly.
Well, there would be. I tell you what I find interesting, though. It's something we did a few months ago, and Nana went up to, I don't know which one it was, but one fishing area, and was talking to all the fishermen about Brexit and what do you make of it all. And they all hated it. And they all said we'd come out. If we could vote again, we all voted for Brexit.
Yeah.
If we could vote again, we'd vote for Remain because of the state of the fishing industry.
Is it because it was harder to sell their fishing?
Well, I can't remember the details, but they weren't happy. So I wonder if this will be as sort of if the fishing industry will be as annoyed about this as we would assume they would be.
Yeah, well, you're right. I mean, it will be interesting to see because I remember when we were in the EU, they hated the common fisheries policy, which was all about French, Spanish access to British waters and vice versa. And as you say, one of the reasons why they all voted for it was they thought, well, we'll get out of that. We want to worry about the common fisheries policy.
If you can't sell any of it.
If you can't sell, then what's the point? And because, ironically, although we're an island, we actually don't eat as much of our own fish and produce, so they have to sell it. And if they can't sell it, then obviously that's going to hit their income quite badly.
It'd be an interesting one. I don't think it's quite as clear cut as. I mean, that really shocked me at the time. It shocked Nana as though she was up there. She thought she was going to get a solid Brexit audience, and they'd all gone the other way.
Interesting.